And we are live over here on X and YouTube. Hope you guys are having a good week. It's already Wednesday, which I don't know how it's already Wednesday, but it's already Wednesday. And it's cold up here in Dallas. I don't know where you guys are at across the nation or international, whoever's on here. But hopefully you are warmer than us. We are in the teens. I don't know. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's not that cold. Well, you know what? It is for me. And it is for people that live here in Texas. It is cold. And I was in Utah not too long ago, and it was same temperature. But it's like really dry in Utah in comparison to Dallas. We have a lot of humidity here, and so when it's cold, it's extra cold. So anyway, hopefully you are warm wherever you are across the world. If you're tuning in tonight, we do this every Monday and Wednesday night. We run it down here in the chat, go through, ask me anything type deal. So if you have any questions around, mitigating taxes, setting up your estate, being prepared for a liquidity event in crypto. Happy to answer any questions on those topics. We got one. Mandy's from Memphis over here. Hopefully it's a little warmer. Got in at 115. I guess he's talking about XRP. Hey, doing pretty good then. So XRP's back up to $2.70. A little rebound off the bottom. So I guess we'll go ahead and get into that. What does the macroeconomic climate look like? What are we watching? Same thing I talked about Monday, or if this is your first time here. I have been eyeing the reverse carry trade for almost a year now. We put out a video back in March of 2024 that talked about the reverse carry trade unwinding in Japan and its effect on treasuries and what that was going to look like globally for markets. Stablecoin regulations here in the U.S. and how that would impact Tether. We've since seen a lot of things from Tether. A lot of Tether minted, and also them moving offshore to El Salvador here just recently. A lot of, some big news today about Brazil. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. Yeah, so we got Eric over here on TikTok. They say the Brazil ETF. They also stated that they are going to launch their stablecoin, their CBDC for Brazil on guess which network? The XRPL. In the past, there have been some people that have put out certain things on the internet. You have to be careful. You don't know what's true and what's not, but this is rung true so far. So they had a flag for Palau, and then Argentina, and then they had Brazil, and then Japan, and then the world for kind of the adoption and for the curve for the XRPL and XRP in particular. So we just got Brazil. My next expectation would be that Japan would kind of follow suit. Brazil is not a G7 nation. There's only one G7 nation that currently has any likelihood of launching a CBDC in the near future, and that is Japan. They're in the pilot phase of their CBDC launch. You have Yoshitaka Kitao, that is the president principal there of SBI, which is a 10% holder in R3, which settles in XRP, and also Ripple, which settles in XRP. So my guess, with them being such a strategic player and also being the prime minister's ear there in Japan, and in alignment with the Bank of Japan, pretty confident that Japan's also going to issue their CBDC on the XRPL. And I think we're going to see an onslaught of stablecoins after that from Google, Meta, Twitter, Amazon, McDonald's, on and on and on. Any international business, Uber, Tesla, SpaceX. I think there's going to be a ton of US-based companies that issue stablecoins when things, click along here, when we get some regulation around it. And I think the majority of them are going to get launched on the XRPL. And people can be mad about that, or they can say I'm wrong. This is just my best guess. I'm just a guy on the internet, just looking at stuff that I see. So take your best guess on that. But I do think that that's going to be the case. But that's here nor there. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and run it down here in the chat. I hope you guys got your questions in. We will do our best to answer all of them. And then we'll hop back and forth between TikTok over here and also here on the YouTube. Avatar 13 says, hi, Jake. When ETHgate comes out, which is spelled like a witch instead of which one, it will, because Doge SEC audit, ETH will be a security and all coins on it. It will crash and market depeg, Tether crash, Bitcoin, and then the whole financial system. I don't think that's quite the way that's going to play out. I'm with you. I see the logic behind it. ETH is for sure a security. Anything that's a pure proof of stake token, in my opinion, just my opinion, is a security. And the reason for that is you are putting up consideration. You're giving it to somebody else. You're putting it in their possession to be able to generate promised returns, which they are going to be marketing to you in order to get you to give up your consideration to them. So your consideration is the ETH tokens. You got to have 32, to put it in the pool, or they have to have at least 32 in the pool to be running the validator on the network. And they're willing to pay you returns for your consideration, and those are promised, right? So if you're reliant on a counterparty for those returns that they have promised, and you put up collateral or compensation in order for them to be able to do that consideration, then that's a security. Delegated proof of stake, I think, is going to skirt that. I think that if you are delegating your voting rights or something else to somebody to produce returns, I think they're probably, since you're not putting up the consideration itself or putting that into the pool, I think they're going to be able to skirt that deal. So like XDC, which is a delegated proof of stake, Solana's delegated proof of stake. There's many other networks that are delegated proof of stake that I think will skirt being a security. But ETH in particular, I do agree with you, is a security in my opinion. And since it migrated to proof of stake, proof of work I don't think will be a security, but proof of stake is. I don't think that that's going to cause Tether to depeg. I'm pretty confident that that's going to be both, the reverse carry trade and its sell off of U.S. Treasuries in global markets, and then also, them potentially being sanctioned by the U.S. government after stablecoin regs are passed and they can't become compliant because a portion of their balance sheet's locked up in Bitcoin that's in a lawsuit with Celsius, and they won't be able to de-risk that, and therefore they will get locked down. But the end game's the same. Doesn't matter either way. They also say, I give it 2 to 3 weeks until this must come out. If they're not all corrupt, including Elon, Trump, and new SEC, this is bigger than Japan carry trade. Definitely not bigger than. I don't know how to impress upon people how large of a deal the reverse carry trade is. It's way bigger than any conspiracy or any ETHgate, or it will affect markets to the tune of tens of trillions of dollars. Okay. Total market cap for crypto is only 3 trillion. Not even close to the impact that the reverse carry trade will have on global markets when that unwinds. And we are close to that happening. I agree with you on the time frame. I agree with you on a lot of stuff, but that is a gnat on an elephant's ass, excuse my French, in comparison to the reverse carry trade. Atlantic Living. They say, how are you? How are you doing? Wanted your opinion as to why ARK Invests and BlackRock have refrained from XRP ETFs. The question is brought up a lot. Do you have any theories why they are still holding out? If BlackRock moves, it moves the market. They have to be last. They can't be in the mix before it's imperative that they are, because last time there was even an inkling of them launching an ETF, the price spiked. We saw almost a double in price in an hour. And so as soon as there's news that BlackRock is launching an ETF, it's going to have to be launch approval go. And I think they tested that. They tested the waters with that, when they filed the fake ETF on November 14th of 2023. They saw the price move and they're like, oh, pull that back. Don't put that out there. As soon as we put that out there, it's going to be, there's going to be movement. So I think that's why they're holding off. ARK Invest, Kathy Wood. Kathy's a sharp lady. She's done really well. She's always in on progressive tech. I don't think she understands XRP. And I don't think that they would do an ETF. Do they have a Bitcoin ETF for ARK? I could be wrong. Let's take a look here. ARK Invest. BTC ETF. 21 shares as a Bitcoin ETF, but they also have an XRP ETF. I don't invest to create a Bitcoin ETF. This was in June of 2021. If ARK, if 21 shares is, they do. 21 shares has an XRP ETF that they filed. So let's see here. Scrolling on down, but yeah, I think BlackRock, as soon as BlackRock throws their hat in the ring, XRP goes to the moon, and they can't have that until it's time. So that's why I think they're refraining from it. Industrious Metallicus Cruz says, what is the deal with Gary Cardone and Patrick Bet-David? XRP polls, are these people holding XRP or just fudsters? I'm pretty confident that Patrick Bet-David has a pretty fat bag of XRP at this point. There are people, celebrities, many pro athletes that we speak with on a consistent basis that hold significant amounts of XRP, like to the tune of millions of XRP. And I'm pretty confident that Patrick Bet-David also has, he's worth $600 million. He sold his insurance company for, $400 million or $500 million a few years ago. He's got, Valuetainment. His net worth is pretty substantial. So for him, to throw a couple $1 million at XRP wouldn't be that big a deal. It's already up in price now from where it was before. So, I don't think he knew anything about it until we saw some of the price move that we've seen. He hasn't really been, he's talked about crypto or touched on it in the past. I really haven't seen him touch on XRP in particular. He's had a few people on his show that, on his podcast that have mentioned it a few times. So maybe he picked up a bag around $1 or $2 is kind of my guess for Patrick. But like I said, it wouldn't be anything for him to throw 3, 5, 10 million at XRP if he wanted to. Gary Cardone does have a small bag of XRP, according to him, 31,965 XRP is what he posted that he has, and he picked that up at like $1.47 to hedge. He didn't say to hedge, but it's to hedge because he's been a Bitcoin maxi the whole time. Mickle has gotten into his spaces many times with him and upset Mr. Cardone with his intellect and his ability to push back on all of the FUD that's tried to put out, that he's tried to put out against XRP. And I don't know if they just don't understand it or if they're scared that it's going to topple Bitcoin, which it will. I don't know, but I think it's interesting. I think it's funny that Patrick put out that poll and he had almost 100,000 people polled on it. And XRP was the obvious winner at like 45 or 50% of people that thought that was the best long-term technology. And then Gary said it was poorly worded and stupid. And then he ran his polls. And it also turned out that like after 40,000 people voted, it was overwhelmingly XRP that people would bet on. And then he ran another poll to try to like shake people up. And it still ended up being XRP that people voted on. So he's deleted those. It's, and hopefully it like wakes him up a little bit. Hopefully he's like, okay, if there's this many people that see this and I don't, maybe there's like something I'm missing here. Maybe I need to do more research. Maybe he is humble enough to eat that pie and think through that and do a little bit more research. And maybe he becomes an XRP bull. Who knows? I don't think that's going to be the case. But he does have a small position that he's mentioned publicly. So they're definitely fudsters. Gary's definitely a fudster. Patrick, I really like Patrick Bet-David. I think he's a good cat. What happened to the XRPL network the other week that it was down for some time? What was the issue? The XRPL has never been down, Jose. It's been paused a few times. The XRPL has never been down, not in its entire existence. Okay. So there's a difference there. Just want to make that delineation between paused and down. Sometimes if there could be a lot of reasons, just congestion on the network, could be overwhelmed. There could be, too many transactions trying to be put through the TPS. It can scale up to 1,500 transactions per second. That is what can go across the mainnet on the XRPL. There are other blockchains that scale to higher, throughput for TPS. Holochain is one of those. DAG is one of those. Hashgraph, I think, may even go a bit more. I think it's similar. I think it's 1,500 transactions per second, but it's more secure than the XRPL. The way that the XRPL scales to infinite transactions is through payment channels and an implicit or explicit subnet that Ripple or another party will launch. Many people talked about Cobalt. Apparently that's dead, according to Matt Hamilton in my discussion with him. But he mentioned, I said, well, if that's the case, and that is no longer being worked on, how would you scale the XRPL to, hundreds of thousands of transactions or TPS transactions per second? And he said, you would need an implicit or explicit subnet on the XRPL to be able to scale it to that level. So I'm confident that that's been built. Ripple's probably has that in their back pocket. Potentially has been trialing it with the private ledgers and the private instances of XRPL that they use with institutions. Anyway, so could be a myriad of reasons that it was paused. JL, I like that. I don't know if you've ever seen the JL brand for golf, but I used to wear that a lot when I played. Do you know any XRP information you wish you could share but can't? Give a hint without revealing the whole thing. Hint without revealing the whole thing. There's once a gentleman that I talked to that contacted me through interesting means that works for 3 letters that use the term out of this world for this technology. So there's a few different conversations that I've had like that, that I feel okay mentioning. They watch all my stuff anyway. So, anyway, I cannot impress upon people the importance of the people that are involved and using this technology, that are in places that cannot be removed. So I don't know if that gives you anything or not. I can tell you, there's a reason that I don't own anything else. I'll just say that. Let's see. Beth, if someone had $5,000 to invest and already holds XRP, what are some asset classes or markets worth researching? Private equity is always a pretty good asymmetric bet. Real estate, I would look at that. If you're already holding XRP and you have a good allocation and you feel like that's going to appreciate, I would start looking at some other asset classes. If I only had $5,000, I'd invest that in myself, and that's going to sound cliche or cheesy. But if all you had is $5,000 to invest and you already held some XRP and some other digital assets, those are going to be the biggest asymmetric bets that you could go for, that you could research and figure out which ones were going to be good. I'd take that $5,000 and put it into myself, develop some other skill set, become a part of communities or a mastermind or something where I could increase my ability to earn income. Because, if you only have $5,000 to invest, not to say you have a low paying job, I don't know your situation, but $5,000 can be put toward your ability to earn income and exponentially increase your ability to earn income just through mindset and being around the right people in the right rooms for the right reasons and situations. Or, you could go back to school, take a course online on how to do drop shipping, or and there's a lot of scams out there. So just be aware that there are sketchy people. But I've spent and wasted plenty of money trying to gain skills. But in that, I've always learned really good lessons that have been able to help me later on, one way or another. So what's hard is when people invest in themselves and they don't see an immediate return of capital. They assume that it didn't work and it wasn't worth it. I can tell you over time, anytime I have lost money or invested money in myself or paid for a course or class or mastermind or been part of a community, it's always paid for itself. It might have taken 10, 12, 24, 48 months, but it comes back around and it's always tenfold whatever I spent. So anyway, that'd be my suggestion. Self-improvement is always a great investment. And again, I know that sounds cheesy and cliche, but it's the honest truth if you just have $5,000 to invest. CJ says you're the best. Appreciate you, brother. Do you? I really do. I really do appreciate the kind words. Do we really have to wait for the new SEC head to get confirmed before closing out the Ripple case? LFG, bro, to the moon. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't. I mean, with the deal today from Brazil, that makes me feel like things are probably moving in the right direction. I don't think we're going to have to wait for Paul to get in. Joe Black says, I have a question. BRICS nations are moving away from the dollar and SWIFT. Why would they transact with XRP? That's a good question. So you still need a neutral bridge asset to be able to settle between them because they don't want to give China all the power. They don't want to give Russia all the power. Chips and SWIFT also need to be interoperable. The main reason that the BRICS nations and BRICS Plus are moving away from SWIFT and the dollar is because they don't want the U.S. government to have the power to sanction them or remove them from the global supply chain, basically, and cripple their economy. So they need an alternative payment system that isn't run by, a challenging party, but they also don't trust or like each other. They're working with each other against the U.S. because there's a common interest there. But at the end of the day, they all want to remain sovereign. They don't want to give up power to any of the other counterparties in BRICS. And to do that, you need a neutral bridge asset and a trusted ledger system that's immutable, and they can all verify their own transactions on it, that's transparent, and that they can trust the software, the protocol, over having to trust the counterparties that they're dealing with. And like I mentioned, chips needs to be interoperable with SWIFT. So you need some type of mechanism that allows for exchange of value there. And XRP meets all those boxes. It ticks all those boxes. Ripple is partnered with a lot of people across the BRICS nations. We saw Brazil today announce that they were going to launch an XRP ETF and that they're launching their CBDC on the XRPL. So if they want to be interoperable with the rest of the BRICS nations, I mean, the B in BRICS is Brazil. Probably going to be on the XRPL. Why do you support XRP when there is do many coins that do the same thing? Muffin Man has asked. I'm not going to rag you on the grammar, because they'll do the same thing all day long. If I mistype stuff. There are many other assets that could and are attempting to do something similar. The main deal for XRP and its adoption is the parties that are involved with it. Like I mentioned earlier, there's very powerful parties that have an incentivized interest for this to be successful and be the thing that's used over anything else. And I wouldn't say there's better coins that do the same thing. I'd like a list of those. And I mentioned some of them that have higher TPS and better security and other things earlier. However, I was telling somebody else earlier today, you could have the best technology in the world, as an example. And I don't mean to rag on this one because I really do like the technology and the people involved with it. But A0, F0, Matt Niemark, good friend of ours, great guy. Their technology is fantastic, like wildly better than a lot of things out there. They haven't been able to get the same market traction. They were a little bit later than other people. The people that are involved with the network, Matt also likes the libertarian side of things. And because of that, they have a privacy component to their network. And with that, the NSA and other people that want to backdoor into things, he's not willing to give that up. And because of that, it kind of operates outside the system and their purview, and they're not going to roll something in, even if it's a better technology, that they don't have a say-so or in the governance of the network and have visibility to transactions and other things like that. So XRP, again, ticks all the boxes. All the right parties are involved, the partners and the people that are running nodes on the network. It's the second oldest digital asset out of anything. It was Bitcoin, then XRP. June 2nd of 2012 is when XNS was minted, 100 billion of them. Those were, 80% of that was gifted to Ripple, 20% were kept by the founders. Many of those people have liquidated those positions at this point, sold off many, lost some, some were stolen. Jed McCaleb, Jed sold all his, but, Chris Larson's lost some. Somebody stole his stuff, which he should have had in PolySign. I don't know why he didn't hold it in standard custody. Anyway, maybe that was on purpose. We'll see. But the people involved with it, the market penetration that it has, the age of the network, that it's never gone down, it's the perfect storm. And there's too many people that I've talked to that are in high places that are involved with that and not anything else. And that's the reason. Let's see here. We've got, make sure I don't miss any super chats. Here we go. Wow, Mark, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, thank you for everything you provide on YouTube and Mastermind, Forex Day Trader. Appreciate you, Mark. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Brian's asked, is there still a discount code for the LLC? Yes, sir. There sure is. It is 50 off. So for those that don't know, if you have $50,000 to $80,000 in digital assets and you want to set yourself up for success on the other side of the liquidity event, I would highly recommend that you do incorporate and move the assets into that corporation, or set up a trust and move the assets into the trust. We like a ratio, some in an asset protection trust and some in an LLC outside of the asset protection trust is what most of our clients at Digital Ascension Group and the Digital Family Office and Digital Wealth Partners all do. It's how we help set things up. But the first step is always setting up an LLC that's a holding company that does the investments and manages your investments, and moving your assets in there so that you get the full breadth of the tax code when you want to take profits, and also when you produce income with the assets. So anyway, that code, like you asked for, is 50 off, 50 OFF, all capitalized, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, LLC. So that's 50 off, OFF, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, LLC, like Limited Liability Company. It takes it from $3,000 to $1,500. And we do everything end to end. So EIN, articles of organization, registered agent, certificate of good standing, BOIR if we need to file it. Well, let's hope we don't. Full, template for the operating agreement to make sure that that's done correctly. Going to an attorney is going to cost you somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 just for that piece, irrespective of the rest of the stuff that we do. We send you a full video on how to set up a bank account and a full guide on how to move the assets into the LLC, the easiest and most correct way to mitigate any tax implications that you could possibly incur. So anyway, would love to work with you guys in that capacity if it's something that you would like. Again, the discount code on the website, digitalfamilyoffice.io, for the LLC is 50 off, 50 off, DAG, LLC. So appreciate you, brother. We got Jeremy Sides. He says, Jake, any mastermind meetup at XRP Las Vegas. Odd question. What does XRP node look like? Is it just a computer program or does it require a data center? So it's just an instance. It's just like a VRAC. You could run it on that. It's not crazy, but it's also not cheap. You could probably set up a node for 20 grand. You'd run a node on the network. If you want a full history node, it's going to be close to 200,000. And you don't get the full history because there's 32,000 blocks at the beginning that you can't see. But the rest of the full history of the network, just a VRAC, with the compute and servers that you would need to run the node. And we are going to do a meetup in Las Vegas for the Mastermind members. It's going to be on the Wednesday before. It's an invite only deal that we're going to do at an unknown location that I'm not going to mention here. You have to be in the Mastermind in order to get that. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. Excited to be, with everybody there before the event. And was actually talking to 68J about that earlier today. So we'll let everybody know that's in the Mastermind, where that's going to be and how you can attend and what that's going to look like. We would love to have you there, Jeremy. So for those that don't know, we do have a Mastermind group. It's the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Oops, there it is. We'll have some of these. We'll hand these out there at the event. We've got a couple other events here in the near future. One for Carbon 2 up in Tahoe in March. We're going to do a little skiing, which will be fun. So 3 levels. We have social memberships, just $25 a month, super cheap. Try to make it affordable for anybody to test it out and stick around to get a lot of value for a little bit of money. The cheapest I've ever gotten out of another mastermind or into another mastermind for has been $3,000 for the year. Try to make it extremely affordable, and we try to provide more value there in the group than I've gotten out of any other mastermind that I've been a part of. And we will lock it down on the other side of price appreciation. We will, for 30 days, we're going to lock it down. We're going to 10x all the prices. So everything will be 10 times more expensive for people that want to come into the mastermind after a $10 XRP. And, with that, those that are in now are going to be grandfathered in. So you'll be grandfathered into the same prices. And we're going to be very secure on the other side of price appreciation, very meticulous about who gets into the group and the vetting process and all those things. So if you want to go ahead and get in now, you can use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized. It's just like this up here. And then the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar gets you a free month there in the group, Carbon 1 or social. Just check it out. If you don't like it, you can cancel. Not a big deal. You don't lose anything. We don't lose anything. Everybody can try it out for free. And then if you like it, hang out. I think you get a lot of value from it. We have almost 1,500 people there that think the same thing, all of which have a pretty significant allocation for them in digital assets and want to improve their financial acumen, their business knowledge, and everything else to make sure that they are prepared for price appreciation. We actually had a lady in here just this last week. I think she was in there Monday afternoon. How to improve your personal credit and business credit, how to set that up, like fantastic bullet points, like a machine gun, hidden things, giving a lot of value, giving people the exact way to be able to increase their credit scores, which institutions they need to be partnered with, where they need to get credit cards, how to pay down lines of credit, where to get trade lines at, like on and on and on. Just for a whole hour, she knocked it. She killed it. And so anyway, she's part of the group. We have other people in there that do real estate deals. We do private equity deals there in the group. So if you're interested in investing in some of your favorite fintech companies, can't name them on a public forum, but we do have deals open in there, and would love to allow you to participate, even if you are not accredited, because we run 506B Reg D funds there out of the group. We can involve up to 35 non-accredited investors that are sophisticated and we have a pre-existing business relationship with. So if that sounds cool to you, you do have to be in Carbon 1 to be able to participate on the deals. But we would love to have you there in the group. Just connect with me on LinkedIn and then go sign up, go check it out with the free code. So we will go ahead and run on down here. Jeremy, again, thank you for the super chat. He says, when we send you super chat dollars, Do you receive 100% or does YouTube take a cut? If so, percentage? Always been curious. I think I get all of it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure YouTube takes a cut. Surely they do. I really do appreciate them, and I try to make sure I get to everybody that pays. But to be honest with you, YouTube, like we get paid a little bit on YouTube, which is good. I mean, our businesses do pretty good between everything that we have going on. Launching another business here this month. We wrote this book late last year. If you guys haven't checked this out, if you do want to go check it out on Amazon or at Barnes and Noble, you just Google Wealth in Numbers, Jake Claver, or Wealth in Numbers, Max Avery. Talk about syndicating deals and what that takes to do that. The full regulatory compliance piece. We've built a piece of software that does everything end to end, so anybody can run a deal. So if you want to raise capital for real estate, private equity, an M&A transaction, syndicating a plane, syndicating a horse, whatever it is, we have a software that does all of the filings for you and the spin up of the entity and the bank accounts and the K1s and all of the other horribly boring stuff that it takes to actually raise capital and do it compliantly here in the US. So anyway, go check that book out. And again, thank you for the super chat. And I think I get most of it, but I'm sure they take a piece off the top. Off the grid, selling my XRP XLM. I make 3 mil. Should I keep it in USDC or ROUSD? Both of those should pay you a 5% yield on your 3 mil when you sell for 3 million. If you do, I don't know why you would sell it all for 3 million, but hey, more power to you. And if you do, you're gonna have to deal with the taxes on that, unless Trump makes good on his promise and removes capital gains tax for American-based cryptos. I hope that's the case, and hopefully you don't have to, and then you can park it in either one of those and earn 5%. 5% of 3 million is going to be $150,000 a year in passive income that you would get off those accounts. So pretty good salary in some parts of the nation. Not going to do very good in New York or California, but if you're here in Texas, you're in Middle America, probably doing all right with 150K a year passively. Off the grid again. He says revaluation of gold to 100K. No. No. What happens to silver? Does that go with 20% dollars from Doge to all Americans? I don't know where you're getting these crazy numbers from, or if you're listening to Mel. I love Mel, by the way. Mel's good people, but he's just a pizza guy, like he says. They're not going to revalue gold to $100,000. Gold is fairly priced right now, and a lot of people may be mad about that. I know Andy Scheckman would probably shake his head and say that I'm ridiculous. If you look at the gold to S&P ratio, the gold to real estate ratio, it's about middle of the bell curve in comparison to how many ounces or kilograms of gold it takes to purchase things. Took 10, kilograms of gold back in the 19 teens to buy a nice home. Takes about the same amount today. It's about $79,000 or $80,000 for a kilogram of gold. So an $800,000 home. Is a nice home. That's how I value gold and where I think it should be priced. If they repriced gold that high to back the currency with, they need another mechanism. It can't be that high. That would also, like you mentioned here with silver. Silver's not going over $100. I know people want it to go to $150, $200, $500. I hope I'm wrong. I hope people make a bunch of money, and I am completely wrong. Okay. I don't see that happening. I think a fair price for silver would be a 40-1, which is what it has been historically to gold. So if let's say gold got to 4,000, you could see $100 silver. If gold's at 3,000, silver should be at $75. Should be double where it is. A little bit more than double where it is, but it's not. It's being spoofed. JP Morgan suppressing it with paper silver. When the COMEX does come through and 589 happens and Basel III and all the other stuff that they've been, threatening for like 5 or 6 years now, maybe that revaluation will take place. I think you could see a $5,000 gold. I think that's reasonable. $5,000 gold, $125 silver. Sure. Cool. But if it gets to the value that you mentioned here, our currency is collapsed. We're worse off. We're way worse off. We've had hyperinflation. We're the Weimar Republic. It is a horrible situation for most people. So I do think that Doge will come in and help Americans and get rid of a lot of the excess spending in government operations. But those are real jobs that people are losing because of Doge too, that are going to have to go out to the workforce and find new ways to make income. 52% of the population here in the U.S. is employed by the U.S. government in some way or form. I think that would be much better if it was like closer to 10%. But again, that means firing all those people. They become jobless. They have to go back out to the private sector and try to find work. They've been working in government for a long time where they basically didn't have to do anything and get a paycheck. And there's a lot of good people in government. I'm not saying everybody in the government work that's paid by the government is a waste or lazy or any of that. I'm just referring to when I go to the DMV and everyone there hates their life and nobody has good service. Poor reflection on most of the people that are working for government. But I digress. So gold and silver, I think it's a great hedge against inflation, but I don't think it's ever going to make anybody rich. And if it does, we are in a bad spot with the dollar. Lucas Walker. Hey, Jake, how are you, sir? When XRP hits 1,000 plus, wouldn't there be an unrealistic amount of millionaires and billionaires? Genuine question. Thanks. Still excited. Within 2 to 3 years, most people will go bankrupt. That money will flow back to people that know how to create value in the economy. And I don't say that to be mean. That is just the reality of the situation. People that have never had money before and don't know what to do with it or how to spend it or how to generate value or how to retain it or how to invest it, they'll burn through it. They'll liquidate their holdings. They've got to pay a bunch of taxes. Even if they move it to tax-free, you still got gift tax and estate tax. If you're using it to produce income, you purchase a business or you just buy a bunch of liabilities with it. A lot of people that are lottery winners, unfortunately, don't know the difference between assets and liabilities, and they buy a bunch of liabilities thinking the money will never run out. And it does. That money runs out. If it's not working for you, if you haven't purchased things where you can depreciate against your income to offset your taxes, there's a lot of things that really smart people and professionals do on a daily basis that I work with to be able to mitigate the chance of loss that most people, and I didn't. I had no clue 5 years ago. I went to school for finance, had no clue about all the things that people do to establish their estate and insurance and how to structure policies and how to, mitigate taxes and the way that you should set things up to have anonymity and privacy in your life. Lawsuits, there'll be a ton of people that, they tell their family and friends, things get stolen from them, people kill them. And I'm not being a pessimist here. This is the reality of the situation. When you make a bunch of money, you call your attorney, you call your CPA, and then you call your spouse. Like, I'm not saying it has to be in that order, but those should be the 3 people that you call, and you shouldn't be calling anybody else. Like, don't tell your family you made a bunch of money. Because you might love your family, and they might be good people. Money changes people. It really doesn't change people. It just makes people more of whatever they already are. So mum's the word when all this happens. And the quieter you are and the quieter you move, the better off you're going to be for most people. And I would surround yourself with the right professionals now before price appreciation happens. It doesn't even have to be us. Like, I think I've done a really good job of curating the perfect team for myself and other people in XRP in particular. But if you've got people that that understand digital assets in your neck of the woods, and they're a CPA or accountant or a wealth manager or an estate planner or they're a tax attorney, Get those people around you. You are going to need them. And start having those conversations now before all millionaires and billionaires. And there's really not that many. There might be 10,000 people on the planet with enough XRP and some of these other digital assets that are going to become centimillionaires and billionaires. And again, to my point earlier, unfortunately, most people are going to be lottery winners. 70% of lottery winners go completely bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. And that's a sad reality because they don't understand the taxes and all the other stuff I just went through. So not to beat a dead horse here, but if you get one thing out of this tonight, like you don't hear anything else that I say, please start that you can surround yourself with to make sure that you are protected and able to hang on to things and structure it the right way on the other side of price appreciation. Honest Aim, how are you, sir? He says, Jake, appreciate all the leadership in the Mastermind 2. Rocks, Carbon 2, awesome, brother. Yeah, it was good to see you in there last night on our private call. No, you can't talk much about specifics, but wife and I really appreciate access to the deals discussed in the Mastermind. Keep it up, sir. Yeah, we've got a really good deal in Carbon 2 right now that we presented in front of that group last night that I think will be, I can't say it's not going to be as good as XRP, but it's pretty dang close, man. Like, it's really good investment in a private company that we're really excited about. I can't talk about it here, but we're going to continue to do that. It's not going to be the last one we bring to Carbon 2 or the Mastermind. We have, again, other fintech companies in there, but this one in particular is a quantum security company. And man, I like their partnerships. They're involved with Ripple and other pretty significant players in the space. And we're going to close the deal and make a bunch of money on that. So excited for that deal. And I appreciate you and your participation in the group and the kind words, brother. Let's see here. Make sure I didn't miss any other super chats before we move on over here to TikTok. I've got a few people waiting that have asked things. We've got John Horton, which is way up in the chat here, but he says, please repeat what you just said about limiting taxes on crypto. I caught the very end. So if you're setting up an LLC, you get the full breadth of the tax code, okay, to be able to offset any capital gains that you may or may not have. American-based cryptos, according to Trump, are going to be tax-free on capital gains. I hope that's the case. You're still not going to be able to mitigate income tax if you're using the assets to produce returns of some kind or yield. You've still got gift tax and estate tax. The best way to be able to mitigate those things, and you can't ever, you can get them to zero. If you got a good CPA, they can get them to zero. They can get you money back if you got a good CPA. But, and we have them. But having it in an LLC and using it as an investment vehicle and managing those investments through the company, the way to do it, man. And again, if that's something you guys are interested in, you just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, type in LLC, and then for 50% off, we'll form the LLC. We'll do everything that you need end to end for it. Articles of organization, EIN, registered agent, the whole thing, operating template for $1,500. It's only $3,000, but with the code 50 off, 50 off DAG, just like Digital Ascension Group LLC. So that's 50 off DAG LLC, gets you $1,500 for everything that you need for your digital assets. If you have less than $50,000 invested in digital assets, don't pay for it. Go buy more digital assets with your money. Don't pay us. I just want to say that, that's where the cost to benefit starts to make sense, is when you have at least 50,000 invested in crypto that you think is going to go much higher. That's when you might start looking at an LLC. Anything less than that, just keep dollar cost averaging in crypto. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. We employ financial advisors at Digital Wealth Partners, so they can tell you to keep buying more XRP. I can't say that. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for answering my question. I live in Australia. Can I use you for taxes? Yeah. We work with a lot of Australians. Actually, we have probably 20 of our clients there in Australia. We work with them to custody their crypto. We set up a lot of stuff offshore for them in the BVI or in Singapore or Dubai most of the time. But we do have, family trusts that are set up in Australia that we can custody assets for. And we do have a few people there that we can refer for taxes. What year do you think XRP will go up the most? Percentage-wise or like nominally? Because those are two different things. I think, and I'll answer them. I'll go ahead and give it to you. So I think that this year, percentage-wise, XRP goes up way more this year than any other year. Well, I think it'll be similar to 2017, 2018. And then I think 2026, 2027, nominally, it will go up the most then. So I think it goes from where it is today to like $1,000 ish this year, maybe a little bit more. And then over the next 3 years, to 10,000 plus. So, nominally over the next 3 years. And then percentage wise, I think this year. Opinion on Stronghold. I like Stronghold. There's a lot of people that are super bullish on Stronghold for its utility. I think that its speculative market is better than the utility, which is not something I say about most cryptos. And the reason for that is they're never going to be a Stripe. Okay. In order to get to the prices that a lot of people want for Stronghold, they would need at least 1% to 2% of the total payment market. They're not beating Stripe. Stripe has 1.5% of all merchant accounts. They're not beating Stripe. Okay. So if that's what the price is predicated on, is adoption of the asset and the network in that application or use case, Stripe would have to buy them. So that's best case scenario. Stripe buys Stronghold, the token goes way up in value, but I'm pretty sure Stripe's going to issue their own token. They're way too big not to, and it's too easy for them to do it. And it will snuff out SHX. It's a great use case or beta use case or trial for that application and that token. And they may be a competitor in the market over the long term, but I can tell you when I reached out to try to set up a merchant account, they never even responded. So their sales team sucks. And if your sales team sucks, you're not going to get much adoption. So anyway, it's my 2 cents on that. I wanted to use it. I wanted to actually use the crypto for payment processing and do all that. Reached out multiple times, never got a follow-up, never nothing. So I don't know. I think they're a real company, but they suck at sales. So anyway, I try to beat up my team all the time. What are we doing if we're not responding to people? You can't answer an email, which occasionally stuff falls through the cracks on our side too. So I'll give people some grace, but if I email you 3 times and you don't get back to me, probably not going to use you, and you're probably not going to get the adoption that you want. Manny says $1,000 this year. Yes, I do think that XRP goes to $1,000 this year if the reverse carry trade unwinds. That is the catalyst. We have Hunter. Hey, brother. He says, explain why banks and institutions will buy millions of XRP if you can settle X amount of transactions per coin. Is it a liquidity/profit? Explain why institutions will buy up millions of XRP if they can settle X amount of transactions per coin. I don't quite understand the question here. Let me read it one more time just to make sure I'm not special ed, because it's late and I could be special. 21 banks and institutions will buy up millions of XRP if you can settle X amount of transactions per coin. Is it liquidity and profit? I'm just going to ramble on about something, and I'm going to hope I'm going to hit what you want here. So you can, according to the calculator that Robbie Mitchnick built, so the guy that is the head of digital assets at BlackRock, he built this calculator. It said that XRP could be used, the same XRP could be used up to 10 times per day to settle transactions. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to here, where you say millions of XRP if you can settle X amount of transactions per coin. They're going to be using it, right? So they're going to have to send it to somebody else to be able to settle a transaction. And all these institutions will be sending it back and forth to settle transactions. And you need a treasury of XRP to be able to do that. If you don't have XRP, then you can't settle transactions to anybody else. So I think a lot of them are escrowed. A lot of them are in the escrow and in the NDAs and in the undisclosed contracts that Ripple has. There's 1,700 undisclosed contracts that Ripple has for pre-negotiated sales of XRP. I think that includes a lot of the people I mentioned earlier, but I will go through it again. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Android, Uber, Airbnb, McDonald's, any international franchise, anything that's settling international payments or has to hold multiple currencies to be able to pay their employees. All those companies, I think, will either will hold a large amount of XRP to be able to settle transactions cross border, and will likely launch, stablecoins, privatized stablecoins for their companies, also all held and used on the XRPL to be interoperable with XRP. So, and there's some other mechanisms, right? Like you could be holding it in your treasury. You could have huge unrealized losses like Bank of America, and you need that to shore up your balance sheet. That would be another reason to buy a bunch of XRP now before price appreciation happened. Maybe you want to use it in liquidity pools to be able to generate returns for your company and your treasury or your country. I think that the U.S. government could, take a large portion of Ripple's escrow and put that to work in liquidity pools and AMMs and generate some pretty significant returns for the U.S. corporation or the U.S. government. Hopefully it goes back to Republic. We'll see what happens. But there's a plethora of reasons that you might purchase a bunch of XRP. You don't want to be beholden to another counterparty and rent it from them because they're going to charge you through the nose like Ripple does for ODL. You want to have your own stash, right, to be able to execute transactions and also have it for your treasury to be able to offset, debts, borrow against it as lines of credit. I think it'll be a tier 1 asset in the banking system. It's going to provide people that are holding large amounts of XRP. You're going to have access to stuff and recourse and resources that average people are almost never had on the other side of price appreciation. Mr. Jonathan, he says, what is a good bag of XRP? I can't tell you what a good bag is. I know you want me to be like, this number, this is what you need. I would encourage you to go look at the XRP rich list. So rich-list.info. If you go to that website, it tells you the analytics of the network. Okay. And with that, you can see how many wallets are holding how much XRP. So I think to be in the top 10% of holders in the top 600,000 wallets, you have to have more than like 2,400 XRP. So if you're in the top 10% of wallets, top 600,000 wallets on the planet, you have more than 2,400 XRP. So what, $5,000? No, that's a little bit more than that now. $2 and $3. Let's call it $7,000, $8,000 invested in XRP. Put you in the top 10% of wallets. I would say, for a lot of people, that's probably a good bag. Imagine having 2,500 Bitcoin back when it was $2. If you just held on to that, you'd be doing pretty good. You had to hold on to it for 10 years, but you'd be doing really good today. So anyway, I think it's a similar situation for XRP. I think $10,000, potentially $100,000 on the other side of 2030 per coin is, I don't think it's an absolute, but it's highly probable based on the use case and application and utility of the network. And again, this is predicated on full adoption, the derivatives market moving on chain, XRP becoming a tier 1 asset in the banking system. There's a lot of things that have to actually happen in global and macroeconomics and real world things for the adoption of this asset at scale to go to these prices. Okay. So it's not just this magical wave of the wand, $50,000 XRP that people talk about. It's horse crap. Okay. But there are real world situations that could transpire that could cause the adoption of this network at scale globally and the asset to be able to move the value across the network. And depending on the tokenization of certain markets or financial transactions, and that XRP gets that volume, you could easily see those types of prices over the next 10 years. I still think this year is going to be the highest percent increase for XRP because of the reverse carry trade unwinding, which we saw start to happen in August of last year. If it makes it 12 months before that unwinds, I think it's highly unlikely. I think 6 months is probably, a good. They kicked the can as far as they could, and we're right at that point right now. We're a little bit past 6 months. Here's that code one more time for people that do want 50% off the LLC. If you have over $50,000, $80,000 in digital assets, and you want to make sure that you're set up for the other side of price appreciation and can be able to mitigate taxes and set up your estate the right way and get life insurance and all the other cool stuff we talk about here, highly recommend going ahead and setting up an LLC now and moving your assets in there, setting up accounts with exchanges, setting up your bank accounts, all those things. You're much less likely to get a bank account frozen, if you send a couple $1 million to it, if it's a business bank account. If it's your personal bank account and that comes out of the blue and you never had that much money in there before, they're probably going to freeze and seize that, and they're going to figure out where it came from, because that's a big flag for them. If you haven't moved, $100,000 or more through your accounts and they're personal and you get $1 million in it, they're going to give it a look. $10 million, $100 million lands in your bank account. You don't want to get that frozen, right? So it's really good to have a seasoned bank account where you've done some business, some larger transactions if you can. Business bank account, same thing on exchanges. Get used to dealing with that, moving money on and off there. I would do that all before price appreciation happens. And having an LLC set up, I don't want to say it's imperative. You could do it post, and there could, you could get by, but doing it beforehand makes it way easier. Yeah. Jeremy says, please invite me. Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you. We will get you the invite to XRP Las Vegas for the invite-only event there that we will announce in the Mastermind group. We have M50XCG. They say, if I had a token in my hardware wallet and it was on an ETH network, if ETH network went to 0, would I lose my token because ETH is gone? If the liquidity on the network was only paired to Ethereum, the answer would be yes. So it depends on what token it is and which pairs it has. If it's only paired to ETH and Tether, I would be concerned. If it has a pair to XRP, if it has a pair to, I don't even know about Bitcoin. The more pairs it has, the better it is, the more liquidity and ways that people could flow money in and out of it. But yeah, if it was just solely tethered to ETH and ETH went to 0, you wouldn't be able to get any money out of it. Because you wouldn't be able to transact it anywhere, especially if it was nascent, not on an exchange. Like, as an example, when I bought XDC to begin with, I had to buy ETH and then transfer it to a random wallet and then purchase the XDC in that wallet. There was no other way to get XDC. XDC wasn't listed on exchanges. It wasn't listed anywhere. Okay. And then over time, obviously that changed and has changed now, but the price went way up. Right. So the more liquidity that's in a token, the more willing exchanges are to list it, on and on and on. So anyway, if it's only 2 pairs or Tether and ETH, or Tether ETH and Bitcoin, probably not something I would be holding. I mean, but again, I'm super biased. I have to take it with a grain of salt. I only own XRP. That's all I got. So again, just some guy on the internet, not financial advice, just my 2 cents. Let's see here. We got JT. He says, I use DWP for my LLC. Not clear how, where I set up a biz crypto exchange. Coinbase charges $5,000. Nah. Happy to get you OTC accounts and set up with Kraken and Uphold. Very easy to do with an LLC. Caleb and Brown is another one. You have a notarized operating agreement if you did with us, and they'll set you up for free. So, I don't know if you're trying to get like a pro trading account. That seems like a scam if they're trying to charge you $5,000. Just my opinion. But anyway, if you want to email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, happy to pass along our contacts at those exchanges to help you get an account set up for your LLC, brother. Let's see here. Scrolling on down, making sure I don't miss any super chats, and then we'll hop back over here to TikTok. We got one more before we hop over here to TikTok. Best wallet to store XRP: Decent, Tangem, or Zaman. Those would be the three that I would look at. We have a link in our description box below for the Decent wallet. They can do all those assets. It's got a biometric. You can add a 25th password. The UI is fantastic. Security on it's great. That's my preference if you can't hold it in institutional custody with us. Danny, what do you think about XLM and HBAR? Bullish, especially on HBAR. But I think XLM and HBAR will both do very well in the near future for peer-to-peer payments and other applications. Jeremiah, he says, how will stablecoins associated with Amazon, Apple, etc. appreciate, or will their prices automatically affect their stock market value? So the stable coins are stable coins. They're dollar backed. They're not going to be tokenized stocks. They will tokenize the stock market, but that won't be the tokens that Amazon, Apple, and other companies issue. They will buy up U.S. Treasuries, and they will launch their own stablecoin backed by U.S. Treasuries that are pegged to the dollar, because that's what the stablecoin is. So that's a good question. Interesting thought proposition. It's not something that I had considered, mainly for the reason that Congress, in what they've put out for the stablecoin regulation, requires that you have dollar-denominated assets or a one-to-one dollar backing for stablecoins issued here in the U.S. So therefore, I don't think that there's a possibility that they even could use their stock prices to back their stablecoins. And again, it wouldn't appreciate. They are going to tokenize the stock market, but that won't be a stable coin. It'll be a tokenized security. All right, a couple more over here on TikTok. We've got about 15 minutes left till we run it down and close it out tonight. What do you think about block DAG? I know what DAG is. I don't know what block DAG is. XRP price in 60 days. It could be less than where it is today, right? I don't think it will be, but it could be. There are events, things that have to happen for the price to appreciate. We need Tether to explode, right? Like it looks like an atomic bomb. That's the whole ticker and everything that they put out, their logo. You need Tether sanctioned, a liquidity crisis to happen. You need Japan and the reverse carry trade to unwind. You need stablecoin regulations. You need XRP ETFs. You need R3 to facilitate the settlement of the back end of the stock market when there's unrealized losses and to settle in XRP. Like there's a lot of things that would require or that need to happen for XRP to go to $1,000. But just to have upward price momentum, I mean, we just get the launch of the ETFs or the settlement of the Ripple case. Either one of those is going to cause speculation on the token and drive price. Speculation on the token by retail, I think, could drive it to like $3-4. If you had the ETFs, I think you could see a $50 XRP same day. If you have Swift adoption, you could see a 3-digit XRP within 24 to 48 hours. If you had Japan adopted as their CBDC and then everybody else rolled on that and did the same thing, that's probably also in the 3 digits. It's the settlement of the stock market and the back end of that makes it go to 4 digits. So if any of those things happens in the next 60 days, that's where price will be. If none of those things happen, then it's where it's at. Word salad in crypto. Okay. Will XDC take a while to get into the thousands? Ooh. I'm going to hurt some feelings with this, and that's okay. Because again, I'm just some guy on the internet, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope people make way more money and I miss out. I really do. But I don't think XDC will ever be in the thousands. I don't think that's ever even a possibility for XDC. It'll be used in trade finance. I think a $10 to $50 XDC is probably the upper end limit of how high that token goes. Again, I would love to be wrong. I want people to make a ton of money, but I think that that's kind of where it caps out if it's just used specifically for that use case. Now, there is the chance that they will continue to tokenize other contracts on XDC because that's what it's built out for. So if you had debt notes, if you had warrants on gold, if you had gold contracts or paper derivatives tokenized on XDC, now we're talking. Now we're talking about a higher price. But just for trade finance, which is the main application that they're currently involved with, I think, you know, 10 to a $50 XRP is, or not XRP, sorry, 10 to $50 XDC is probably the highest it ever gets to. And again, I know people are going to be mad about that. That's okay. It's fine by me. I'm just some guy on the internet. I hope I'm wrong. How confident are you XRP will hit $50 in a year? I'm going to say 100%. Yeah. I'm just go ahead and say it. I'm not even going to hedge. No hedge. 100%. Within the next year, XRP hits at least $50. How many transactions for a single XRP before it burns out? So one drop, 0.000012 XRP is about a fee. Is the cost of the transaction on the network. So it's in, you know, less than a penny to send $1 million. After calculating it out, if you had the same burn rate on XRP that you do today, it would last for about 1,000 years at scale if it was used at scale for the current supply. So it is finite. It is deflationary. It will be used over time. If they reduce the fees on the network, it could last longer than that. So, and I think they will. I think that, you know, if it's adopted at scale, it's likely that they would reduce the burn cost and fee for transactions on the network. Otherwise, you know, it will burn a bunch of the asset. Of course, that just causes more price appreciation. So the people that are holding it probably are going to be okay with it burning, you know, maybe even half the supply before they're like, hey, we need to do something about this. So Jeremiah again, he said, it's the same thing. Well, no, he says something different. He says, how to find a good AMM liquidity pool. Do the best, require a minimum amount of XRP to get involved. So I know the gentleman that runs the largest AMM on the XRPL. It's XRP versus crypto. If you guys want to go look it up. He has a game on the XRPL. It's called Crypto Land. Might also go check that out. It's very cool. And when he explained it to me, the earlier you are into a liquidity pool or an AMM, the more money you're going to make. So similar to like an ICO or a meme coin or any of those things, the less liquidity when you get in, the better, if it's going to be adopted and grow to scale long term. Now, you can't rug everybody, right? So you need to get things to critical mass before you can pull profits on stuff, especially if you're the majority of who funded the pool to begin with. I think that critical mass, based on my conversations with him, is somewhere between 50 and 100 million in liquidity in a liquidity pool before you could start pulling, you know, your returns out of that pool in the form of LP tokens if it's an AMM, or liquidity pool tokens, LP tokens if it's liquidity pool. Liquidity pools aren't going to be live on the XRPL for at least another, I don't know, 4 or 5 months is probably my guess. When I talked to David Schwartz last year at Consensus, he said May, June is probably when it would come up for vote this year. And he was right on point. You know, when I asked him the year before about the AMMs, when they would come up for vote, I said, you know, when do you think those will happen? He said December, and they did. It showed up in December, but they didn't get approved until March of 2024, which was very frustrating. So again, that just shows the decentralized nature of the network and people voting on things, and that there's actually a governance mechanism. Like, it's good. It's good for the overall adoption of the network, but it's just frustrating for people that want to see progression. So, you know, I think that it'll come up for vote in May, June, but it might not get approved till August or September, potentially, for the liquidity pools. And that's definitely something we're watching with Digital Wealth Partners and how we can be able to generate returns and how those mechanisms are going to work. And again, that's why I'm talking to, the person that runs the largest AMM on the XRPL to glean knowledge, because he's already done it, right? I don't know what the current liquidity in that pool is, but I think it's over 10 million. So the earlier you are, the better. But you're going to have to wait in order to be able to make profits on it. This is what I would say. And you're going to want to make sure you get in a pool that's going to be sustainable over the long term. The parties aren't going to remove their stuff and rug everybody. Things issued like XRP versus RLUSD, that liquidity pool. And then you're also, you're going to have impermanent loss for your XRP that you put in the pool. If it goes way up in value after you put it in the pool, half of that value is not ever going to go because it's in a stable coin. So just be aware of that. You're likely going to have impermanent loss. And if you try to do a one-sided pool, that's a whole nother problem. So work with professionals. Probably be my recommendation. And if you do know what you're doing, get in early on something that you think has longevity. And the lower the liquidity there is when you get in, the more upside you got. We have Digital Native. He says, Senor Jake, how are you, sir? Say you had $300,000 worth of digital assets for you to custody. How much would that cost me a month? 300,000. We'll do a little math here. No, we won't because my phone's dead. So we're going to do it in my head. All right. So 300,000, 2% of that would be $6,000 per year divided by 12 is going to be $500 a month. Would be the cost for us to custody that in institutional custody with insurance. So you get $100 million worth of insurance on your assets. Is that really that much? It's 2%, 6,000. 6,000 divided by 12 is $500. Yeah, that's what it would be. It gets much cheaper as the assets, increase in value over time. We do have ways to earn returns on the XRP held in institutional custody. You do have to be accredited in order to participate and do that. So if you have $300,000 in XRP, you may be accredited, and you might be able to earn 20%, 12%, 15%, 8% on your assets there without ever, incurring much risk in order to do that. So if that's something that interests you, we'd love to have a conversation with you about it. At Digital Wealth Partners, you can just email info@digitalwealthpartners.net. For some people, it doesn't make sense. I'm just this is not in my interest, but I'm going to be honest with you. If that $500 a month is peace of mind to you, it allows you to sleep better at night. Cool. Bring the assets over. We would love to work with you on it. If that peace of mind is not worth $500 a month to you, I would wait. And again, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to help people. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that people have access to resources when they need them, but only when they need them, right? And if you can hold it on your ledger and you're cool with that, and you don't want access to returns or liquidity against your XRP, borrowing against it, and you're okay waiting for price appreciation to continue, might just hold it on your ledger a little bit longer, and stack that $500 more in XRP every month. But anyway, that would be the cost. It'd be $1,000 to onboard, and then $500 a month on $300,000. So after it goes over 5 million, that drops back down to 50 basis points. So it's about $25,000 a year at 5 million to custody the assets with us. And then when it gets over 10 million, that drops to 40 basis points. So right at 10 million, that'd be $40,000 a year. And we should be earning you way more than that, even if you're just putting a portion of your assets to work in the strategies that we have. So way more than enough to cover the fees, and you should be, getting some cash flow if we're doing our job. Jeremiah, appreciate you on the super chats, man. Thank you so much for these. He says, blockchain has mainly been about revolutionizing finance. Every once in a while, I hear about blockchain healthcare. Is that something you looked at? Yeah, we actually drove up. So we are on the Blockchain Council for Arkansas. Yes, I'm still buying XRP every single day, Dana. We drove up to Arkansas, probably end of last year, and we talked to Arcare, and we talked to them about, the applications for decentralized healthcare and what that would look like, and decentralized identity, and having all of your health concerns on chain, and access to those for doctors, because right now you have to contact your primary physician for records. What if you could just download those by sharing a hash from your identity on the blockchain that was immutable and also like super secure, like HBAR. I think HBAR is a fantastic application, or healthcare is a fantastic application for Hedera, Hashgraph, and HBAR. And I think that's where your digital identity for that type of stuff will live, because of how secure that network is. It meets the standards for HIPAA and the compliance that's required. So anyway, I think that there's a lot of applications for blockchain. I think healthcare is definitely one of those. Insurance is another huge deal. If you could get oracles and automation and escrow and a lot of the other stuff that we've been promised, as some of the promise of blockchain and smart contracts, I think it's 3 to 5 years away, is my guess. Payments is the killer app for crypto. Once it's adopted there, I think you'll see it start to bleed into other sections of the economy. But finance is for sure the easiest and lowest hanging fruit for blockchain and smart contracts to disrupt. It's me. It's an interesting name. They say carrying hardware wallets on international travel. Border custom check regulation. I am an expat working in the US and I have moved to my base country. How to explain custom and carry seed phrase on travel. We went to Mexico not too long ago, and the gentleman that I was with carried his Trezor wallet all the way to Mexico. He's starting to move it over to institutional custody now, just so you guys know. Which I'm happy for. A lot less stress for him. It should just look like a thumb drive. I don't know why you're having to explain it to customs, like put it in your pocket and pull it out and look like a phone. I don't know what you said to customs to alert them to your crypto wallet. You could just use a paper wallet, or memorize the seed phrases in your head and then put those back in on another wallet whenever you move across the border. I know people have done it that way. I prefer institutional custody. I just hold it there and then always have access to it anytime I want. I have beneficiaries on it. I have a trustee that would step in and manage it if I were to pass away. Spouse is a co-signer. Like, there's all the cool stuff that you get from any other institution, and you are the signer on that account, and so are we. The institution itself can't sign, can't do nothing, can't do anything, and you still have full control of the assets, but you get all the benefits. So anyway, that's something you're interested in. We'd love to have a conversation. Again, just email info@digitalwealthpartners.net. Take a couple more here and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Izzy P, what's up, man? He says, my bro Quincy believes XDC will skyrocket to unbelievably high numbers. Can you interview him again, please? Also love the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Yeah, I would love to talk to Quincy about it, because Quincy's sharp. Quincy could explain to me why and how that might happen, and he would probably change my mind because he would present me with some data that I didn't know. All right. And like I mentioned, I hope I'm wrong. I hope people make way more money than I think they're going to. But I think Quincy might also think that XDC is going to get some of the action for XRP. And I don't know that he's had all the conversations that I've had. I think he's had some good conversations, don't get me wrong. And Quincy is extremely intelligent. Like, there's only two versions of Quincy. Quincy's like 1,000 miles an hour, or like, what's up, man? Like, those are the two versions of Quincy that I've encountered. I don't know if you guys are in a similar boat. I like the amped up version. Like, I like when he's like super ecstatic and excited and passionate about stuff. Even though he goes kind of fast and sometimes it's like drinking from a fire hose. I dig it. Anyway, so yeah, we definitely have him back on. It'd definitely be something I'd like to do. And we may have him down for the family office event that we run here in April. This person's asked interest. Should I start a life insurance at 49 years old? Do you have beneficiaries? Do you have people you want to take care of? Are there assets that you want to protect or allow them to grow, tax-free. A lot of considerations. 49 years old. Are you insurable? Do you have pre-existing conditions? I guess the answer is it depends. A lot of things to consider there at 49 years old if you want to start an insurance policy. I have a term life policy and have for the majority of my life, but I will use PPLI on the other side of price appreciation. IULs are a good tool. I'm not so fond of the stock market. I think there's going to be a big downturn in the stock market for a period of time, and that would be a great time to start an IUL and fund it. Would be like after stocks fall way below what they did in 2020 and get back in at that point and ride it up over the next decade or next couple decades. Be really good. And I think that's probably what's going to happen in the stock market. Just again, my 2 cents. But it's definitely worth looking at. Like I said, there's a lot of considerations, and I would ask yourself why you're getting an insurance policy. If you have beneficiaries and you have people that you want to take care of, absolutely. It's great to have life insurance. God forbid something happens to you, but it's an inevitability that we're all going to die and pass away at some point. And so if you want to make sure that your loved ones are taken care of and they have, and you're a provider for them, I don't want to say it's your responsibility to have that, but I do think, it's a big benefit when people do. Got a couple more super chats here. Mr. Paul Polite. Hey, Jake, how are you? If not a accredited investor at the moment, but have the digital assets amount, how to become an accredited investor. Hi from Australia, Carbon One member. Hey, brother. Awesome. Glad to see you. Excited to have you in the mastermind. And I would get a letter from your CPA, accountant, lawyer, tax attorney, or your wealth manager, which it could be Digital Wealth Partners, that states that you have that many assets and that you are accredited. That'd be the easiest way to do it. If you have them on a cold wallet and not in institutional custody, you may have to move them to an exchange and get them to give you a report or account statement of those assets, and then provide that to whoever is asking for the accreditation. That would be the way that I would do it. And again, we're happy to write that letter for you if you move those assets into institutional custody. And we have purview. We can't do screenshots of wallets. I wish we could. We have to prove that you own them. So, Jeremiah, can you explain the connection with cash value life insurance and crypto? So we use policies or PPLI policies. We're fighting for the right to be able to fund in kind with XRP because it's a currency, and that's a requirement of PPLI is that you have to fund it with a currency. So still working through some of that, but we have done it on some other policies offshore. You can do stuff in the Bahamas or Bermuda, excuse me, and you can fund in kind down there. It doesn't matter. You can do it with any kind of asset, even anything outside of crypto. But there are no current insurance policies that invest cash in crypto. You'd have to do PPLI if you wanted an allocation to crypto inside your insurance policy. And as the value of that appreciates, the cash value would go up. We got A and O. They say slow and clear, 12 XRP, first 3 steps to prep for wealth. All right, so you have 12,000 XRP, first 3 steps to prepare for price appreciation. Buy more XRP, buy more XRP, and buy more XRP. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't listen to me. I'm just some guy on the internet. You don't have enough to if it goes to $1,000, even if it goes to $1,000, you got $12 million, which is great. Don't get me wrong, $12 million. But the gift tax threshold here in the U.S. is $13.99 million per person. So you're good. You're still good. You can move it into the LLC at that point. You could move it into a trust at that point. You could gift it out of your taxable estate. You have all the flexibility in the world. Okay. If you've got over 15,000 XRP, or you've got 20 or 50 or 80 or 100,000 XRP, now we probably need to set up an LLC. We need to start considering setting up a trust. We need to get the assets into institutional custody. you have enough of them to do something with it to, take action right now. But if you have 12,000 XRP, again, I could sit here and sell you a bunch of stuff, but you honestly don't need it right now. Your money would be better spent dollar cost averaging into crypto, because you're going to make more money there and then be better served over the long term. So I would love to say, go set up an LLC and spend the $1,500 with us and join the mastermind and do all these other things. And again, we would love to have you do all those things. Maybe joining the mastermind, probably a good idea. I mean, that's not that much money. You're going to be around a lot of people that are a few steps ahead of you and can provide their expertise and help you along the way. But yeah, Mandy says 15K XRP. I mean, at that point, you're at, close to $45,000. I'd still wait till you're like $50,000 to $80,000 in current value before setting up an LLC. Just, again, I don't want to sell anybody anything that they don't need. So a couple questions over here about PPLI. So Coach JV talks about IULs. I like Coach JV. He's good people. He kind of pivoted a few years ago to this IUL thing, and started talking about taking profits on crypto and putting it into an IUL, and now he's selling those. Just so you're aware, he makes a lot of money when you sell an IUL policy, which more power to him. It is a good tool in certain circumstances. Make sure that it's a fixed rate policy when you set it up with him or whoever you set it up with. If it's a variable rate policy, they can take your principal if there's losses in the market and they raise your rates. Okay. So there is not like a zero floor on IULs. They will figure out another way to screw you. The insurance companies are here to make money. Okay. So just be aware of that. Make sure it's a fixed rate IUL if you're going to do it. And the returns on that may not be as high, but that they're not going to be able to rake you for your principal if they are in a bad position. And you're going to be limited to the downside. So in those circumstances, like setting that up for your kids, if they've got a 30-year time horizon, is fantastic. I think that's great. But anyway, we use PPLI. So the minimum for that's $5 million in assets to fund a PPLI policy. And PPLI is private placement life insurance. If you want to go check that out, the Rockefellers use it. One of the main gentleman that we use for PPLI is from the Rockefeller family office, just so you guys know. Cream of the crop. We got good people that we've sought out and put this stuff together with. Do you offer your services in the Caribbean? Yeah, we can set stuff up down there in the Caymans and British Virgin Islands and Bermuda, Bahamas, wherever you're at down there. I don't know if you're in Haiti or depends on where you're at. But yeah, we can work with people in the Caribbean. Do you have an idea of when Ripple IPO? I think it's going to be in 2026. I think we got a while. Because Brad said he's not going to IPO this year. And if Brad said he's not going to IPO this year, Brad's the CEO. I don't think he's going anywhere. A lot of people are like, maybe he'll be on the crypto council for the president. If he's got to renounce his position at Ripple, I don't think so. I think 2028, Brad could step down and take other positions. Because I think that's when things will all be buttoned up and done pretty much for Ripple. And they'll be IPO'd and off into the sunset type deal. But yeah, I think 2026 on the Texas Stock Exchange is my guess for IPO for Ripple. And I think it's going to be a price that's crazy. Is 10K XRP a good bag? Like I said earlier, go check out rich-list.info. And that'll give you all of the, amounts of wallets and what they're holding for XRP. And then you can kind of assess, to be in the top 10% of, wallet holders, top 600,000 accounts, you have more than 2,400 XRP. So I'll say this, the better your questions are, the better answers I'll have. Got a few more here and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. We got Mintho Nelson. He says, all this big boy talk, and I think I'm actually qualified to sit at the take. This is wild to me. Yeah. There's, there's a lot of people out here that are holding pretty big bags and some pretty significant interest in this stuff. And like I said, we're here to help and provide services and make sure that people do have access to stuff on the other side of price appreciation, and help you be proactive and make sure that you're in position beforehand so that it's not a rush or a crazy, situation on the other side. Because I do think it's going to happen very fast when it happens. We already did this one. Make sure I didn't miss any other super chats here before we wrap it up tonight. Jeremiah says, what will entering into the altcoin market for future appreciation look like in 5 to 7 years after the majority have appreciated? Your vision? A lot of this asset class is volatile and nascent right now. 3 trillion is not that much. Like, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not in global markets. And crypto is going to eat everything else. In 5 to 7 years, this asset class is mature, and there won't be like sects of people that are communities that are behind a certain token, and all of that's going to go away. It's going to be technology that people use for specific applications, and there'll be tokens on networks that move that value. And all of this tribalism and the craziness that exists today is going to be completely gone. I don't think the term altcoins will even exist in 5 to 7 years. I think that there will just be an asset class of digital assets and networks and protocols that have swallowed all of finance and many other applications globally. And a lot of the upside will have already happened. Most of them will be high, stable prices if they're settling transactions at scale, and premium assets to hold, and they might pay you some type of return, but the upside and appreciation or the ROI that you're going to receive will be truncated. Just like you're starting to see Bitcoin taper off at the top on a logarithmic scale, a lot of these other assets will be at that point as well. 2030, 5 years away. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up and end it there for tonight. I hope you guys have got a lot of value from this. If you did, we would love to have you over there in the Mastermind. If you want to go check it out, it is mastermind.beyondbroke.com. You can get a free month there. The code is beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group, either in Carbon One or Social. If you want to run deals and participate on the private investments, Carbon One is the way to go. If you do want to set up an LLC, we would love to work with you in that capacity. It is a requirement to work with us at Digital Wealth Partners. So that code, if you want to go check it out on digitalfamilyoffice.io, is 50 off OFFDAG LLC. That gets you 50% off. So $1,500 all in, EIN, articles of organization, registered agent, certificate of good standing, BOIR if you need it. The operating template, which is like $1,500 to $2,500 if you go to another attorney. We give you a full video on how to set up a bank account and a full SOP on how to move your assets into the LLC and answer any questions that you might have. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you'll have a wonderful Wednesday, a wonderful night, a wonderful week, and we will see y'all on the next one.